It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday morning by the lake, just me, a chainsaw, and one dead tree leaning a little too close to my dock. Nothing wild, just routine cleanup on my own property. But of course, nothing is ever that simple when you've got an HOA that thinks they own the entire zip code. I barely got through half the cut when I heard the unmistakable sound of tires crunching gravel, followed by a screechy voice yelling something about unauthorized landscaping. And yep, you guessed it, Karen from the HOA board was standing there, arms crossed, already on the phone with the cops. She didn't ask if the tree was dangerous. She didn't care that it was inches from snapping into the water. Her only concern: HOA protocol and some vague line about environmental impact, which is funny, considering what I found parked behind the clubhouse later that day. That's when things got real interesting. Because if there's one thing the HOA loves more than writing warning letters, it's breaking their own rules when they think no one's watching. What started as a simple yard task turned into a full-blown confrontation, complete with flashing lights, loud arguments, and a certain golf cart parked somewhere it definitely shouldn't have been. And the best part? The sheriff didn't exactly take their side. But I'll get to that. First, let me show you exactly how this all went down, because this isn't your average HOA drama. Not even close. So here's the part they didn't want anyone to talk about. The tree I was cutting had already been flagged as a hazard by a local arborist months ago. I even sent an email to the HOA board with the report attached. But surprise, no one responded. Typical, fast forward to now. And suddenly Karen's acting like I just tore down a redwood in a national forest. She was pacing in the driveway, like she was running for HOA president again, barking orders into her phone and telling the police dispatch I was disturbing protected land. Protected land. It's my backyard. Now, I'll admit, I wasn't exactly in the mood to play nice after that, especially when she brought back up Doug from the board, who acts like he's the sheriff of the whole lake community. He stood there, with his sunglasses on, arms folded like he was gearing up for some showdown. They both kept talking about bylaws, citations, and calling the county inspector, all while I'm holding a chainsaw and trying not to laugh at how over the top it was getting. But here's where it got really weird. As all this was going on, I noticed tire tracks down by the boat ramp that weren't there earlier, and tucked halfway behind a row of bushes. The HOA golf cart. I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. There's a posted sign about it. And judging by how deep the tires were sunk into the mud, it hadn't moved in a while. Something wasn't adding up. At first, I thought maybe someone just forgot to park the golf cart back at the clubhouse. But the more I looked at it, the sketchier it seemed. The back seat was loaded with garbage bags, some of them half torn open, filled with old HOA documents, soda cans, even a few broken sprinkler head stuff that should have gone straight to maintenance or the dump. But what really caught my eye was a sealed envelope wedged under the driver's seat. It had my name on it. No postage, no return address, just my name, in all caps. Before I could reach for it, Karen noticed where I was standing and started storming over, shouting something about trespassing and chain of custody, whatever that was supposed to mean. Doug followed right behind, trying to act all calm, but clearly nervous. He kept glancing back at the cart like he was afraid I'd already found something. Meanwhile, the deputy they called finally showed up. But instead of listening to both sides, Karen practically dragged him to the tree stump, going off about environmental violations and unauthorized landscaping. I tried to speak up about the cart, but she cut me off every time, trying to drown out the part of the story she didn't want heard. I could feel the mood shifting. Neighbors were gathering by the driveway. Phones were out. People were recording. Everyone could tell this wasn't just about a tree anymore. There was something bigger going on, and I was right in the middle of it. The deputy started taking notes, but he looked more annoyed than concerned. Karen was still waving her arms, now dragging HOA rulebooks out of a tote bag like she was delivering some kind of legal sermon. She kept pointing to a paragraph about community vegetation management, acting like cutting one dying tree was the crime of the century. Meanwhile, I stood beside the golf cart, that envelope still burning a hole in my mind. I didn't touch it, yet Ty wanted a witness, so I called out to the deputy, trying to get him to take a look inside the cart. Karen's face changed instantly. Her tone went from overconfident to panicked. Doug stepped between me and the cart, stuttering something about confidential HOA matters. That's when a few of the neighbors started muttering to each other, asking why HOA property would have my name written on something hidden under a seat. The deputy finally walked over, slow but curious now. Karen tried to stop him, saying he didn't have probable cause to search private HOA property. But it was parked on my lot in the grass, right next to where the tree had been. That changed things. The deputy raised an eyebrow and told Doug to step aside. And just when I thought things couldn't get more tense, we heard the sound of another vehicle pulling up. This one wasn't a golf cart. It was a county supervisor's car. Someone else had called them. Now the stakes weren't just personal, they were official. The county supervisor stepped out of the car, sunglasses on, clipboard in hand, and a look like he already regretted making the drive. But when he saw the scene, Karen, mid-rant, Doug sweating bullets, the golf cart parked illegally on my property, his interest peaked. He introduced himself and asked for a quick rundown. The deputy started explaining the tree issue, the parking violation, and then gestured toward the still unopened envelope in the golf cart. Karen jumped in, trying to dominate the conversation. But it didn't work. The supervisor waved her off and said, "Let's start with why this cart is on private property and what's inside." As he opened the seat compartment, the crowd leaned in. Neighbors had started gathering around by now, whispering and recording on their phones. He pulled out the envelope slowly, opened it, and scanned the contents. Then his brows furrowed. He held up a stack of folded papers with my name clearly labeled on the front and a county seal stamped on each page. It was correspondence I hadn't seen yet, documents that had apparently been stolen from my mailbox. That wasn't just a HOA issue anymore. That was mail tampering. Doug's face went pale. Karen suddenly looked like she'd forgotten how to speak. The supervisor handed the documents to the deputy and said, "We may need to get someone from the DAS office on this." Then he looked straight at me and said, "You didn't cut down the wrong tree, but I think they picked the wrong guy to mess with." The deputy radioed for backup and a postal inspector, and within minutes, a plainclothes investigator showed up, flashing a badge and heading straight for the golf cart. Doug tried to step between them, mumbling something about miscommunication. But the officer brushed past him. The inspector confirmed the papers were part of certified mail that had been flagged as undelivered 2 weeks ago. That meant someone had opened official mail meant for me, mail that included permits, survey maps, and approval to remove the diseased tree. In other words, I'd done everything by the book. Karen and Doug, not so much, as the inspector explained. The federal implications. Karen finally snapped, yelling that I was ruining the neighborhood with my attitude and bringing drama to their peaceful HOA. But the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. One of my neighbors even chimed in, saying they'd seen Doug lurking around my mailbox days earlier. Another admitted Karen had threatened to report them for trimming their hedges too low. The sheriff's deputy placed Doug in cuffs first. Mail tampering is no small charge. Karen, red-faced and trembling, was handed a citation for trespassing and interference with an official investigation. But just as things were settling down, the investigator turned to me and said, "By the way, there's something strange. We found a second envelope in that cart addressed to another homeowner. Same seal, same format. So it wasn't just me. That cart had secrets, and Karen's little empire might be a whole lot shadier than anyone thought." After the chaos settled, the inspector took both envelopes for further investigation, and the sheriff gave me a nod, quietly saying, "You did the right thing." Turns out, Karen and Doug had been meddling with more than just my tree or property lines. Several neighbors came forward over the next few days, revealing similar issues missing: paperwork, denied permits, and mysteriously rejected HOA requests. With enough testimony and evidence stacking up, the HOA board finally called an emergency meeting. Doug resigned before he could be formally removed. Karen, though she tried to hold on to her influence, found herself completely outnumbered. Her position as self-appointed enforcer of the HOA's standards dissolved in a matter of hours. People were tired of being pushed around, and this time they had proof to back them up. As for the tree, the county inspector reviewed the documents again and confirmed I'd done everything legally. Not only that, but I was commended for removing a hazard near the lake that could have caused damage during storm season. That was a small win, but it felt huge. The golf cart, the fake complaints, the threats, it all came down to control.